This episode is brought to you by Disney. This Thanksgiving, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde are back on the big screen. So grab your family and friends as Disney invites you to return to Zootopia for the phenomenal movie event of the holiday season. See all your favorite Zootopia characters plus new favorites in the most pawsome movie of the year. Don't miss Disney Zootopia 2 when it hits theaters everywhere November 26th. Get your tickets now.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmooze Day, November 10th, 2025. On the show today, in news, we review Zootopia, Better Zoo-gether, and lots of listener questions around trip planning. Then in our main segment, Jim tells us how Disney built its first mountain, the Matterhorn. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says people who use the wrong words should have the humility to admit it. Please welcome Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Okay, Len. I will admit to our Disney Dish listeners that which, by the way, I consider a very extinguished audience. Sometimes I misspeak myself. That I say a word or a phrase that's close to what I meant to say, but isn't exactly correct. But that is something we should all perspire to, isn't it? Getting the words right. And by the way, Len, I stole those last two jokes from Norm Crosby, the master of malapropes, born in Boston, 1927. We lost him 5 years ago, this week, actually, at 93. And the very best Norm Crosby joke, Glenn, I know you love this, is like, when you go to court, you are putting your fate in the hands of 12 people who weren't smart enough to get out of jury duty.
Exactly. Or even worse, people who might want to be there.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I love those free lunches. There we go.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/JimHaleMedia, including Bob Boyd, Carol Cantwell, Chris Heisel, Chris Jefferson, Chris Payne, and Craig Groff Folsom. Jim, these are the Epcot chefs who turn the plants and animals grown at Living with the Land into delicious meals all around Walt Disney World, with such memorable classics as Eternal Tilapia, I Can't Believe It's Not Cassava, and 9-Pound Lemon Regret. True story. I mean, they grow the same thing, so the menu does kind of repetitive, right?
There we go. But the 9-pound lemon. Wow. Okay.
All right, Jim, on to the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is sponsored by UnlockedMagic.com from our friends at DVCRentalStore.com. The holidays are a perfect time to visit UnlockedMagic.com to find regular Disney theme park tickets and special event tickets with 10% off for things like Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party and Jollywood Nights. All of November's Christmas parties are sold out in the Magic Kingdom, so visit UnlockedMagic.com right now to save big on your admission this winter. All right, Jim, on to the news. In Walt Disney World, I've now seen Zootopia, Better Zoo-gether, the new film at the Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom. Have you seen any of the videos on this, Jim?
I have. That said, though, still wearing the electric collar. It's still no negative November. So
Yep.
Here we go, Len.
It's still a 3D film, which is interesting by itself since Remy is switching back to 2D. Mm-hmm. I think it's more family friendly. For one thing, they've taken out all of the scary elements, things like, spiders dropping and whatnot. It's now much, much more tolerable for small kids. It's also very fast paced for the TikTok generation, and it's played at a high volume, so it feels like more of an experience. There's a really good Benjamin Clawhauser animatronic introduced at the beginning of the show. The premise of the show is that all of the animals are coming together to celebrate Zoo-gether Day. And Judy Hopps hears that someone is trying to disrupt Zoo-gether Day, so she goes around trying to stop it. She goes in and visits all the different neighborhoods in Zootopia, and this is a series of quick cut clips where, you go to the neighborhood, you see all the residents there, there's some sort of joke or visual gag about something related to the residents or the neighborhood. Judy eventually realizes that these folks aren't the perps that she's looking for, and they go on to the next neighborhood. And it all comes down into an interesting resolution at the end of the film. But overall, I think it's really well done. There's a water-based gag. Have you seen this one, Jim?
Yes. And by the way, what's kind of interesting about that water-based gag is it's set in Marsh Market, which is a part of Zootopia we didn't see in the original film, but will make its debut in Zootopia 2, arriving in theaters on November 26th. next?
Right. So this is a great timing for Disney for that. The water-based gag is really, really good. Most kids are going to love it. It is a lot of water, Jim. Like at one point when the water was being sprayed on us, I actually had time to say, wow, this is really a lot of water. No, really, seriously, this is an incredible amount of water, and there was still water. Yeah. So, but I think overall, everyone should see it at least once. It's an improvement. This is Disney's strategy for the next 18 months or so to make improvements to existing properties rather than build new attractions. So fair with that. It was good. I liked it.
Okay. Another thing worth noting about this, and some of our listeners may have seen the Zootopia attraction that opened at Shanghai last year. And what's kind of interesting about this is they also have a Clawhauser animatronic. In fact, I want to say you enter the Zootopia police station, and he's right there at the info desk. And that version of Clawhauser has the projected eyes, whereas, the Disney Imagineering going forward now is kind of stepping away from that tech.
I saw that. Yeah.
So again, we're trying to be positive during no negative November. So nice to see that Florida actually gets the good version of an animatronic. So there.
Yeah, it was really good to see the refresh. And I think kids are going to love it. It's going to give the park one more thing to do, especially for people who've been coming to the park, in the last 10 or 20 years or whatever. One more thing to do is always really good.
Sure.
Also, speaking of the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life Awakenings, the After Dark show projected onto the tree, has begun running shows after dark now with the end of daylight savings time. So if there is one piece of good news about daylight savings time, I think that's it. Let's go with that.
Oh, and also worth noting, the Merry Menagerie will debut.
Oh, right! I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that debuts actually Friday of this week, November 14th. And for my money, that is honestly one of the best holiday things at Walt Disney World. It's artisanal puppets with some really talented puppeteers.
Right.
Well worth going out of your way to experience, folks.
It was funny. I was in the parks on Halloween and then November 1st and 2nd. And on Halloween, they had just started rolling out some of the Christmas stuff. Like you could see, a couple of Christmas sweaters and things like that. But then over last weekend, Animal Kingdom had started putting up some of their holiday decor on the tops of buildings around Discovery Island. And you could see how, every day was a little bit more. In fact, we were on the Living with the Land boat ride when they were started running out the LED Christmas lights. On some of the effects. Like there were actually cast members doing it in the greenhouse as the boats floated by. So that was really interesting to see.
Oh, cool.
All right. Speaking of the winter holidays, Jim, over in Disneyland, the holidays mean one thing, and that is Deadpool Santa Claus.
Yes.
So I'm hearing that the Storytime with Deadpool Holiday Special will run somewhere around Avengers Campus from next week until the end of the first week of January 2026. Now, Jim, I know a lot of people will say that nobody needs to celebrate Christmas that long. But remember that Disney Imagineers imbue every decision, even the tiniest choices, with background story and magic detail if you just pay attention and care enough to look. So Deadpool's first Storytime Day begins on November 14th, which is National Seatbelt Day, and that's a reminder to everyone to buckle up while traveling during the holiday season because Deadpool is serious about safety.
Well, there.
And it continues through November 29th, which is Chadwick Boseman Day. So there's our Black Panther tie-in right there. And it runs until January 7th, which, Jim, I don't need to point out to you, Greek Orthodox Christmas. And if there's one thing we've all learned from the Deadpool franchise, it's that he cares about others and Spanakopita, apparently. So hats off to the Imagineers for crafting this really detailed holiday meet and greet.
Wow, you are getting a lot of use out of that holiday a day calendar, Len. I'm just really.
I look forward to November every year. All right.
There we go.
On to listener questions. Matt writes in with a follow-up to last week's question about Epcot After Hours, and he says this. Don't forget, you get in at 7 p.m., so you can do some of the smaller attractions at that stage and walk around World Showcase. I'd recommend watching fireworks around Remy and then making Remy your first ride, which should be close to the event starting time, around 9:30, so you have half an hour, which is outside the park hours. Also, when you do the maths on cost, Len, you didn't count the value of being able to eat as many Mickey ice cream bars as you want.
Okay.
Fair, Matt. I have a similar trip booked for February, but unfortunately it's the week where there's only Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios after hours events. I would definitely book it if it was Epcot because it's my favorite park. The main reason would be for seeing 2 fireworks shows in the Magic Kingdom. Would you recommend booking that just to have the chance to see Disney Enchantment? And that's a great question, because my first thing was like, well, they're not running Enchantment anymore, but Enchantment is the fireworks that they run during the after hours party. So that's a super interesting question, because of all of our recent Magic Kingdom fireworks shows, Wishes, Happily Ever After, Enchantment, they're gone, for the last 20 years or whatever. Enchantment is the lowest rated of them, right? And so you would think, well, it's the lowest rated, I could skip it. But it's like saying you're going to date the ugliest supermodel. I mean, even the ugliest one is still far more attractive than your me, right? Like way out of our league, right?
All true. But don't get me wrong. The notion of getting 2 fireworks shows in one night, that is cool. However, if I had my druthers and they're circling back on previous fireworks shows, Wishes. I mean, I realize there's no projection element for Wishes, but that was, Steve Davison's first, show in the sky, and it's a great show with an amazing score.
I can count on one hand the number of people in the United States who would be disappointed if Wishes came back. Like it is people who don't like Julie Andrews for some reason, and there's 3 of them in the U.S. So
there we go.
All right. Gene also writes in about Epcot's After Hours and says, I'd mentioned that After Hours is attraction focused only, and World Showcase and all the shops and dining are greatly limited. Fair enough. I found that Epcot After Hours means not being able to visit many of the World Showcase pavilions. On another note, I once asked about the returns of Tables in Wonderland to you and Jim, and y'all thought it was never going to happen. I'm just wondering, with the reality now of so many park goers opting for lightning lanes and giving up table service dining instead, would it make sense to make dining for locals more appealing to fill those empty tables by bringing back Tables in Wonderland?
Ooh, Gene!
Wow, what a great question, Gene.
Genius idea. Okay, I know we have people in management of Walt Disney World, and yet you want to talk about low-hanging fruit, which, by the way, you could make people pay double and triple for. I mean, really, do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a pick your own strawberries. Just, Jim, why is there not a dining experience in Living with the Land called low-hanging fruit? Grab and go. Like, all right. You pick. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No, but I mean, to Gene's point, right? Let's say that you're giving local annual pass holders 10 or 15% off a table service meal. I'm not great with math, but I'm pretty sure that 80 or 85% of a large number is bigger than 0.
Yes.
I'd have to check this, right? But so yeah, would you like some money or no money? And I think some money is better in that situation.
Jane, great idea.
Jane, great idea. Yeah, fantastic. All right. Here's an email from Matt who says, my family and I are staying in a 3-bedroom grand villa at Bay Lake Tower with theme park view for New Year's Eve. What's the best room number to request? And Matt, I have done exactly this before. And the reason I did it, I think I've told the story of the show, was one year, Laurel, Hannah, and I went to Magic Kingdom for New Year's Eve. And it was fantastic. New Year's Eve in the Magic Kingdom is a blast. It's exhausting. It's super crowded, but one of those memorable experiences you got to do once in your life, right? It took us 2.5 hours to get back to Pop Century. And so as I was sitting on that bus, I made a vow to my family and God that next year, if we did it again, we would stay at Bay Lake Tower so I could just walk back to my hotel. And so 11 months and 3 seconds before I could book it, I made a reservation using DVC points and got Bay Lake Tower. And eventually, you do this, Jim, right? You see people in the park, you hang out with them, and eventually everyone's exhausted at midnight. Oh, yeah. So you're like, well, look, I don't have a bed for you, and I may not have blankets, but if you would just want to come crash on the floor of Bay Lake Tower or on a couch, you're welcome to. So our Grand Villa that sleeps 12 had 26 people. fine.
Okay.
Had a catered breakfast the next morning. It was amazing. Super fun. I hope everyone did it with me. Still imagine it's okay. So I've done this, but here's what I would say. All of the 3-bedroom grade villas, theme park view are on floor 14. They're all going to have fantastic views. Also, since they're so high up, you see a lot less of the Bay Lake Tower parking lot and more of the Magic Kingdom. So, everything here is going to have a good view. Again, this is the ugly supermodel thing. They're all going to be fine. I think, and I put links to the show notes to the room views, 8416, 8420, and 8422 are your best bets for better Magic Kingdom views since they're oriented towards the park. And the ones on the other side of remember, this is a C-shaped building. The other ones kind of face over towards the Contemporary. A couple of other things, though, Matt, about these rooms. They all face west. And so all of that glass in that 2-story living room is going to mean that the room gets very warm in the afternoons and evenings. So be ready to use those huge shades to keep the place cooler. And then the shades, I mean, obviously you get less of a view. You're either living in a greenhouse or you can look out. You can't do both, right? The other thing I would mention for New Year's Eve, if you're on December 30th, when Disney runs the preview of the fireworks, you should be able to take the stairs to the 16th floor to watch the fireworks from there, even without a reservation to get up to the top, because the stairs are available and you're already in there.
Killer.
So if you want to see the fireworks twice, Matt, that's how to do it.
Killer. Okay.
All right, cool. Here's a question from Michelle who says, what happened to the Festival of Fantasy Parade? It seems to be a shell of its former self. Last week when I was there, I saw a small group of Lost Boys, 2 walking thorns, 3 choral dancers, and 2 dancers before Rapunzel's float. I remember being so delighted by the group of ballroom dancers in their gorgeous feathers who started the parade, and then a full unit of dancers between every float. I know it got pared down after COVID, but every time I come back, I'm hopeful to see this parade in its former glory, and instead there seems to be fewer elements each time I see it. Rip Merida's float. So, I know this is no negative November, so should I spin this as my beloved dancers are getting some well-deserved rest? All right. So first question, Jim. I think Disney is cutting back entertainment, to give people some rest. Not only at Walt Disney World, but in Disneyland, right?
Okay. Other thing worth noting here. Now, remember that the Magic Kingdom now has 2 parades. We have our daytime parade, a Festival of Fantasy, and I'm blanking the name of the new nighttime parade, which, by the way, you liked very much when you saw it.
Disney Starlight.
Disney Starlight. And not to belabor the obvious here, Michelle, but if you look at the way they use dancers with Disney Starlight, that has kind of become what they are also doing with Festival of Fantasy, that you will get, say, 3 or 4 dancers in between floats. It is pared down from what it was previous, and I'm not going to lie, I same thing. I loved the performers in the streets in between the floats for Festival of Fantasy. And I missed them too. But the hard reality is coming back from COVID. In fact, this is something that when you talk with folks who work the entertainment side at both Disney and Universal, they will flat out admit to you, it's like, a lot of the talent moved away during that period. They had to, they were waiting for the resorts to reopen. It didn't happen at the speed they needed it to, and they found other opportunities elsewhere. And Orlando is, still in recovery mode. So there you are.
Yeah, that's true. In thinking about this, I love that you brought up the Starlight Parade, because from my perspective, if it's a choice between one really good afternoon parade or a good afternoon parade and a good evening parade, I would rather have the 2 parades.
There we go.
Yeah.
That said, I have to admit, I'm hopeful to get backstage when we're down there legally. I want to stress that.
Oh, you said it, not me.
There we go. Because I'm fascinated by how they're storing 2 parades worth of floats backstage at the Magic Kingdom these days.
Yeah, true. And I think that's the parade storage unit stuff is one of the things that when we speak to BioReconstruct, our all-knowing, all-seeing eye in the sky, that's one thing we look for when we hear rumors of new parades coming to like Hollywood Studios, for example, we ask Bio, like, can you see if there's anywhere around the parks where they're building parade storage units for a new parade? Because they would need to do that months in advance, right? Yeah. Fair. All right, Jim, second question from Michelle is this. Why doesn't Disney sell books at the gift shops? At Epic Universe, I was happy to see the original How to Train Your Dragon novels in the Burke gift shops. My family loves to read, and we've always wanted to bring home Disney books as souvenirs, but we can never find one. With the rise of romantasy novels and the prevalence of specialty book crates offering sprayed edges and special covers, why hasn't Disney jumped on this opportunity? So, Jim, first things first, romantasy. Is that a word that your beloved wife, Nancy, who watches Hallmark Channel, has explained to you?
You know, I don't know. That has come up, and she's a dedicated Wordle player as well. So go figure. That said, though, I hate to break it to Michelle, but the interesting thing, at least when I speak with folks on the merch side of Disney, is that the interesting thing is that Disney books. Just the notion of, okay, in order for these to sell, I need to put them at a certain place in the store at eye level that, to be honest, lower priced items I can place there will sell faster. I mean, it's literally a retail placement decision that a $40 or $50 book versus, say, a $10 to $15, souvenir coffee mug, we'll move more of those. And it's kind of a cold-blooded decision. But the notion of, I would rather have lower priced items that move faster than books that just sit there and, will sell one or two a day versus 20 or 30 of, the other item. And it's a sad reality. But on the other hand, the other reality is we do live in an Amazon world, and it's like, if you want a Disney book, like, in 2 clicks, you can get it.
Exactly. They can ship it to your hotel. I remember when the Art of Disney in Disney Springs stopped selling books and periodicals. And that was sort of the writing on the wall that people don't come to Disney to read, unfortunately. But I think that's that. Yeah. And last question is from Reagan, who says, heard you mention on last week's podcast that the Edison may have been inspired by Hyperion Wharf. My callous arrogance compelled me to butt in. The Edison Walt Disney World is an imported concept. The original Edison operated in an actual former power plant in the basement of a building on 2nd Street in downtown LA for over a decade until it became a COVID casualty. So the funny thing is as I was reading this email from Regan, my wife Laurel said the exact same thing to me. She's like, they came from LA, right? I'm like, you could have just stopped me during the show and said it. That would have been okay with that. Also, I had lunch with Reagan recently. It was fantastic. He was in New York. It was great. It's good to meet him in person.
Cool. Well, all right. Thank you, Reagan, for pointing out our mistake.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Geology Jim tells us how Disney built the Matterhorn. We'll be right back.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
I turned off news altogether.
I hate to say it, but I don't trust much of anything.
It's the rage bait.
It feels like it's trying to divide people.
If we got clear facts, maybe we could calm down a little.
NBC News brings you clear reporting. Let's meet at the facts. Let's move forward from there. NBC News, reporting for America.
And we're back. All right, Jim. I love the topic of the Matterhorn because I don't think we've ever explored this in detail. My one bit of trivia on this, and it's something that I mention to my friend Kelsey every time I see her, is that it was the world's first tubular steel roller coaster. So there we go. That's all I know about it.
There we go. Again, of course, we got a Matterhorn because Walt wanted one. But look, on this podcast, Len, we have talked a lot about Walt, the guy who basically invented the American theme park. Likewise, Walt Disney. The guy, he may not have actually introduced sound cartoons to the world. Likewise, the feature-length animated film. But he definitely moved that art form to the next level. But today, Len, what I'd like to talk about is Walt Disney, producer. That guy who, and again, the year that Disneyland opened, 1955, suddenly found himself needing to churn out a crazy amount of content. All right. Okay. So listen to this. That year, 1955, Disney Studios first had to put 4 feature-length films out in theaters, and among them, Lady and the Tramp, first feature-length film done in CinemaScope. Mind you, Len, Walt also has to produce 25 new episodes of his weekly Disneyland TV show, which is beginning its second season on ABC, September 14th of that year. There is also the Mickey Mouse Club series, which is going to debut just 3 weeks after that, October 3rd, 1955. Len, that's going to run 5 days a week, Monday through Friday in the afternoon. So Walt needs 101 episodes of that for ABC for its first season.
It's like when they needed to run Regis Philbin in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire every day during the 1990s.
That's it exactly. Just keep Regis in an IV and keep giving him black coffee. He'll be fine. All right,
Exactly.
But again, if we slide ahead now to the fall of 1956, well, this is where ABC goes. Oh, by the way, remember when we signed the deal back in '53 and we gave you that seed money, not only guaranteeing the bank loans that make Disneyland possible. You mentioned you were going to do a third show for us, that Zorro thing. Yeah, we'd like that now too. All right, so fall of '56, Walt now has to prep this show, which ABC wants for the following television season, '57. It's going to lead off their Tuesday night lineup starting at 8, and they're going to need 39 episodes of that. So Len, Walt is doing all of this while Disneyland is still in its first 2 years of operation, where they're kind of learning the hard way. It's like, oh yeah, I guess people don't want to pay to go see a circus after they paid admission to go into Disneyland, and letting kids, pilot their own free-floating craft on the Phantom boats. Not a good idea. They never come back. But Walt throws himself into this new world where he has to come up with ideas for 3 different TV shows and find new ways to expand his family fun park. Not to mention
films.
Films.
Got to do films.
Got to do films, and it's your studio.
I feel like if I'm Walt at this point, I'd be like, okay, one episode of the Disneyland weekly TV series is here's how we produce Zorro, and then another one is like here's how we produce the Mickey Mouse Club, and then we have the Mickey Mouse Club going, hey, do you kids want to know how a real TV show was made? Let's go watch Zorro. Right?
There we go. They had 2 days. They called that synergy. All right,
synergy. All right.
But again, Walt was the king of content creators back before there was an internet. We thought, we needed great content. But anyway, in a situation like this, you actually have to have things, Len, books, magazine stories, and the like, to turn into content. And so this is where Disney's literary acquisition team comes into play. And they're the studio employees who actually read all of these things and then make recommendations to upper management of the studio about should we acquire that? Do we want the television rights to that? Do we want the movie rights for that?
I love that there's someone in Disneyland responsible for the slush pile. I think that's just hysterical.
Which brings us now to Banner in the Sky, which is a book that the J.P. Lippincott Company published back in January of 1954, written by James Ramsey Ullman. It's a fictionalized version of the first ascent of the Matterhorn, which, by the way, in the real world, folks, is this mountain in the Alps that straddles the border between Italy and Switzerland at 14,692 feet. The Matterhorn is one of the highest summits in all of Europe. More to the point, Len, because of its near symmetrical pyramidal peak, the Matterhorn remained unclimbed till the mid-19th century. In fact, when the first successful ascent was made back in 1865, 4 of the 7 men who took part in this climb fell to their deaths.
Wow. So this was dangerous in the, within the last 200 years, it was still really dangerous to do this. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And since that time, Len, over 500 climbers have died attempting to climb the 4 faces of the Matterhorn, which is why the Germans call this peak Berg der Berg, which means mountain of mountains, a place where only the most experienced climbers should go. And others flat out call the place, given its deadly history, Len, the Murder Horn.
Oh,
wow!
What a great name!
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give you one bit of Matterhorn trivia here.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the candy bar known as the Toblerone?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so for years the Toblerone had the Matterhorn on its label, but recently, like in the last 2 years, because it does not contain enough chocolate from Switzerland, the Swiss authorities have deemed that Toblerone cannot use a picture of the Matterhorn to represent Switzerland on its label. So now it's generic mountain.
I did not. Oh, that's a great story. Okay.
Yeah. All right. There we go. All right. Anyway, Banner in the Sky. Okay.
Okay. Banner in the Sky comes out January 54. And look, Len, it's not a bestseller, but this James Ramsey Ullman book becomes that year's runner-up for the Newbery Prize, which is the American Library Association presents annually to the most distinguished children's book to be published the previous year in the U.S. And anyway, Disney Studios, again, they produce films for its family, so they pay close attention to who wins the Newbery every year. And so when Banner in the Sky becomes the runner-up, the folks in literary acquisition give it a read. They like what they see, so they recommend to Walt the studio should option, this television rights, movie rights. And Walt's like, really? Make a movie about the mountain where all the people die? But
family friendly.
But family friendly, yeah. And the acquisition said, well, all right. Central character of the story, Rudy Matt, 16-year-old boy, determined to conquer the Citadel, which that's the mountain that towers outside of his village in Switzerland. And backstory, 15 years previous, when Rudy was just a baby, his dad, Joseph Matt, he dies while attempting to summit the Citadel. And
if there's one thing, Jim, that Disney of the 1950s loves, it's a story that begins with a dead parent.
There we go. And the other thing I also found fascinating about this, and that they don't live in the real world in this story, is that out of respect for the family, for the past 15 years, no one has ever attempted to climb the Citadel again. So, but anyway,
wow.
Rudy, to honor his dad's memory, has decided he's going to do what his dad couldn't, which is climb the Citadel. But the literary acquisition team says, well, look, besides, in the Banner in the Sky, the mountain isn't called the Murderhorn. I mean, the Matterhorn. It's called the Citadel. So people who see this movie or TV show aren't going to associate this this mountain, the mountain in this production with the real Matterhorn, which is when Walt says, what the hey. And he acquires the movie rights in July of 1957. And Len, this thing flies through the pre-production process. I mean, less than 11 months later, they are on location in Switzerland shooting this thing in June of 1958.
Wow. Wow.
All right.
Okay.
But how do we go from a movie, which, again, want to stress here, not set at the Matterhorn because 500 people have died there. But how do we go from not the Matterhorn to the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland? We will get to that in a moment. But first, this.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
And we're back. Okay, Len, again, back to Third Man on the Mountain, which is what the Disney movie version of this James Ramsey Ullman book, Banner in the Sky, wound up being called. This Ken Anakin film, by the way, third movie that Anakin had made for Disney Studios at this point. First is Story of Robin Hood and His Merry Men, which Disney releases at theater June of 52. And Walt was so impressed with Ken's work on Robin Hood that, I mean, that film is barely finished shooting, and Disney has Anakin direct another live-action swashbuckler for his studios, and that's The Sword and the Rose. Comes out July of 53.
Have you seen either of those two films?
Yeah. They are interesting, wow. Len. They are starting with Treasure Island, and I want to say that's 48. This is an interesting moment in Disney history. It's just after World War II, and the UK is doing an interesting thing. They have this, they turn to the Walt Disney Company and basically say, yeah, we have a lot of your money here, but we'd really like you to spend.
And we'd like to keep it.
No, that's it exactly. So it's like, we'd like to invite you to shoot your movies here, and you'll spend the money in the local economy, and you'll get a movie you can show around the world. And Walt actually did that. I want to say there were 4 of these films: Treasure Island, Rob Roy. We talked about Robin Hood and His Merry Men, and finally Sword in the Rose. And and they all kind of look like we're in the UK. It's just after the war. We don't have a lot of money, but wow, look at that castle. Right. They're interesting movies.
Swords and sandals.
There we go. But anyway, Walt really liked working with Ken. The fact that, placed in that difficult kind of circumstance, he made really good movies. So, in fact, what was interesting is Walt has come over to watch the start of the shooting on Third Man on the Mountain. And while he's there, he's like, Ken, I need to talk with you about the next movie you're making for us. We want to do Swiss Family Robinson. And would you be available next year? Because I'd like to put this out in theaters Christmas of 1960. Ooh. So, and Ken actually did really like working for Disney Studios. In fact, I was lucky enough to get to interview him later in life, and he talked about how, of the 4 films he made for Disney Studios, he was proud that 2 of them wound up inspiring attractions of size at Disneyland Park. Oh, right. Again, we're talking today about the Matterhorn bobsled. They come online in June of 59. But then there was a Swiss Family Treehouse, which opened in Adventureland November 18th, 62. By the way, got a brand new name 2 years ago today, Len. In fact, and we're talking about the day this podcast goes live, November 10th, 2025. But back in 2023, that got changed to the Adventureland Treehouse, which, by the way, you, me, and Mr. Schul watched pieces of that being built. When we went to...
We did.
There we go.
At an unnamed location in Southern California.
There we go. we go. All right, but speaking of different names, once upon a time there was almost a third attraction at Disneyland that was based or going to be named on a Ken Anakin film. And what's fascinating about this is you look at the early Disneyland materials going all the way back to the prospectus. There's always going to be a castle at the end of Main Street, but it doesn't have a name. Early on in that material, you see it described as the medieval castle and then the Fantasyland castle. But Walt at one point is like, it probably makes sense to have a character in there. So initially, it's called Robin Hood Castle. In fact, what was kind of cool about that idea, tying it to, again, the film that Ken had directed for Disney in 1952 is, and again, we were just talking about, entertainment at the parks during the daytime. And what they wanted to do was sort of extend the moat over to the side of Fantasyland with the notion that several times a day, doing a bit right out of the Legend of Robin Hood, that Robin Hood and Little John would have an encounter on a log, over this stream, and someone would eventually go in the drink land. So,
yeah, it's expensive in costumes. Okay, I get it.
There we go. But then Walt thinks better of that idea and thinks that, it should really be a royal and Disney princess in the castle. So for a time, it's Snow White Castle. And then to hype the movie that's coming out it was supposed to be coming out in 56, but it fell so far behind schedule, it didn't arrive in theater till December of 59. And that's Sleeping Beauty. So Sleeping Beauty Castle. But anyway, again, Ken almost has 3 attractions at Disneyland named after his 4 movies. And by the way, he was so loved by the people at the studio. He was only the second director to be named a Disney legend.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened in 2002, and sadly we lost Ken April of 2009 at the age of 95. But God, he was sharp to the end, and he told great stories.
Oh, that's fantastic. So this is the interesting thing. So at the last minute, Disney decides to name the castle after Sleeping Beauty. And this is one of the things that I try and point out whenever I talk to, somebody in the theme park business. You might think that, you've got this project and you got to finish it in 3 months, and every decision you have to make within a certain time frame. Some of those decisions are going to last for 70 years.
Yes.
And so it's okay to push back on something if that's not perfect in a lot of these cases, because you might think, I'm just going to do this and move on to the next thing. But the decisions you're making today, our grandkids are going to be looking at it going, I wonder how that ended up here.
I think you're the one, Len, who said there's nothing quite as permanent as a temporary Disney attraction. So,
exactly. Yes. All right. Okay.
All right.
So Matterhorn, the murder horn.
There we go. All right. And this is the thing. Ken did his research, and it's like, all right, I'm going to kind of insist that before we put people in these situations, and I'm not just talking about the actors, I'm talking about my crew, they get 2 weeks of mountaineering training before they start shooting the film. And Walt actually comes over, because it's like, well, all right, I really want to work with Ken, and he really wants a safety thing. So he's over there visiting while this is going on. By the way, they did not shoot at the actual Matterhorn. They shot in Zermatt. Len, that's 145 miles away from the Matterhorn.
One mountain. You've seen one mountain, you've seen them all.
There we go. But Walt, while he's in town, again, to sell Ken on, we really need you to shoot Swiss Family Robinson. It's like, all right. He makes the 4-hour drive over to, the other side of the Alps to see what it is about this particular peak that everybody is so impressed with. So, Walt gets out of the car. He looks across the distance at the Matterhorn, and he gets it. He gets why people are obsessed with this specific Alp. So this is the part of the story I love. He walks into the nearest gift shop and finds a postcard with a particularly dramatic picture of the Matterhorn on it. And he grabs a pen and he writes, first of all, he fills out the address to Vic Green, who's the lead art director of WED at the time. And other than Vic's address, he only writes 2 words, Len. And these words are, build this. You know. And which is why
I love it when you can put the requirements document on a bulletin board with one stick pin. Right?
There we go. Build this. All right. And just to be clear here, again, I know there's this story about how the Matterhorn bobsleds are based on Third Man on the Mountain, but it's like, folks, all right, the times and the dates don't line up. The Matterhorn actually opens at Disneyland June 14th, 1959, whereas the movie version of Banner in the Skies, that wouldn't open until, Len, 66 years ago today. And by that I mean November 10th, 1959. So if you are a classic science fiction fan, it is kind of a trip to see Michael Rennie, the guy who played the alien visitor in the original The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, yeah. I watched that not too long ago, last couple months.
It's a great movie, Len. But again, and it just, so he's playing the lead in this film. He's Captain John Winter, who, spoiler alert, eventually leads the first successful ascent of the Citadel. And the entire time I'm watching this movie, Len, I keep expecting Rennie, as he struggles up the mountain, to eventually turn to the camera and Clato Barado Nicto.
Right.
So, doesn't happen. Gort doesn't show up, but one final note here, folks, and Len, we are going to have to bring Jim Schul on the show to discuss this specific aspect of Matterhorn history. But there was a time, Len, when the Imagineers discussed changing the ride configuration of Disneyland's Matterhorn in such a way that you were actually supposed to experience this Fantasyland attraction in the exact same way that a luge athlete in the Olympics does, as in, Len, you were supposed to be flat on your back, feet first.
Can you imagine? What a crazy idea.
Well, here's the thing.
How far did they get along with this? By the way, I love the fact that if you're a family, like you're lying on top of each other like two-man luge, right?
What I can say is Mr. Schul has shown me the pictures, not only of the actual test vehicle that they used at Disneyland to sort of street test how a luge version of the Matterhorn would work, but he actually has a picture of himself lying down in the thing before they sent him off. But again, this is Mr. Schul's story.
It's not the lying down. Like, if you tell me lie down and experience this ride, I'm fine with it. It's the getting up. That's going to be a challenge.
Well, it just reminds me of that line from the John Candy film, the Disney movie Cool Running, and they talk about bobsled accidents where when you have a crash in one of these vehicles, your bones don't break, they shatter. And it's just it's just the notion of going down the Matterhorn feet first, on your back. It's just sort of like, that's the entire time. That would be what would be running through my head. They don't break, they shatter.
They shatter, exactly. That'd be a great slogan for a T-shirt, though. I mean,
yes.
I'm just saying. Okay. All right, not a bad idea. All right, so we have to have Schul on to tell that story. That's fantastic.
There we go. But anyway, I just love. That's how we got a Matterhorn. Walt goes over, sees the real mountain, sends a postcard. Build this, and there we go.
I love it. Oh, I hope that postcard is still in the Disney archives somewhere.
Me too.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia. where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our latest show is on Disney's corporate lounges, and there's a link in the show notes. Also, there's a link to Jim Schul's Disney Journey channel on YouTube. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at tutorialplans.com. And also, we're both on The Case 4 with Chris Cox, a new podcast from the Jim Hill Media Network, where Chris, Jim, and I debate one theme park topic at a time. Were produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, bringing their world-famous stuffed mushrooms and bacon dips to the second annual South Carolina Pimento Cheese Festival on Saturday, March 14th, 2026 at Saluda Shoals Park. That's on St. Andrews Road. Look for the entrance between the Aldi and the Wendy's in beautiful downtown Columbia, South Carolina. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.